Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sunday Mystery School. We are back. I am so glad to have all of you here. Hello to my members of the channel in the Zoom room. I've got a bunch of you gathered here with me as well. Lovely to see all of you. Already had a little conversation with Orlana this morning about last week's homework. We'll get into that in a minute. But hello, hello. We'll have a chance to hear from you more later in the stream. And hello to everyone joining me on YouTube. I was watching the chat going wild this morning and just enjoying the interactions with you all. So lovely to have you all here. Thank you for joining, and I'm excited. So, Sunday Mystery School. All right, so this morning, I was thinking about where we are with Sunday Mystery School. Today is episode 5, or the 5th live stream, and we're really diving very deeply into these sacred esoteric mysteries in the unique presentation style of Neville Goddard. And when I introduced Sunday Mystery School, so Sunday Mystery School is an inspired idea. I got it in a download like, hey, it's time to bring people who are of this, woven from this cloth together. It's time to bring them together, and this is a way to do that. So it's an inspired idea. And when I went to introduce Sunday Mystery School in the introduction live stream, if you remember, I said, this is an initiation. Coming to Sunday Mystery School is an initiation. And I spoke those words over it with intention. What is an initiation? An initiation is an event that occurs in your reality field that when you have engaged with that event, you can draw a line in the sand of your life and you can say, there was life before this event and there is life after this event. And Sunday Mystery School is an initiation in that it becomes that event, because the ideas that we explore here, when put into practice, will absolutely change your life completely. It'll change your life completely. I was watching the YouTube chat, and there was someone who clearly had watched the last Neville and Chill live stream, which is on Tuesday nights. It's the more relaxed version of what we do here in Sunday Mystery School. Sunday Mystery School, we get down to business and we really explore these ideas. Neville and Chill, we just kind of talk about them in a relaxed way. And in the last Neville and Chill, I was talking about the biblical character Josiah and the state that Josiah represents. And obviously my namesake, and I was really feeling, I am feeling very resonant with the state that is also very happily my namesake. And in the chat, someone was saying, hello, good morning, and I'm in the state of Josiah today. And that made me smile, because this whole idea of Sunday Mystery School and the ideas that we explore here, if you are engaging with them with an open heart and an open mind, you will begin to tear down the false idols in your reality field, which is of course, what the story of Josiah in the Bible, the state of Josiah, it's what that's all about. It's all about removing, false gods, or, ceasing idol worship. And what we mean by that is taking the power back and really learning that we are the creative power of our reality fields, and learning that we have this divine inheritance, as sons of the Most High, we have this divine inheritance that is our creative power that we can use to create realities for ourselves to experience. And so there's a couple things that this brings up, this initiation. So one is, wow, this is incredible power, right? Like this is not just a toy, right? Like this is actually the power that creates worlds. It creates realities. It creates, our whole experience of life. Like this is God's creative power that we're learning that we have. Okay, so that's the first one. And then the second one is, with tremendous power comes great responsibility. So what does it mean to be a wise heir of this creative power? And so Sunday Mystery School isn't just, touting the power. Sunday Mystery School is like, hey, there's a revelation of power here, and now we're all being initiated into wise use of this creative power. And that wise use is guided by the values that we choose to express through our creative power. And, Sunday Mystery School, today's episode or today's session, we are going to go through the text that I shared. And there's a link in the comments. Also in the Zoom room, there's a link to the text. We're going to get into the text a little bit, but it became very clear earlier this week as I was looking ahead to this session that we need to have another conversation about values, about what it means to be a values-based creator. The homework for last week at Sunday Mystery School was presented. The idea was presented. The invitation was sent out for you to take this idea presented by Neville, this idea of how to create a reality for yourself, and to practice it. And I remember as I was introducing the homework, which I was a little surprised that the homework came through, but hey, that's what it is. What I said was, look, we take these ideas out of the realm of the intellectual, right? Out of the realm of this is fun to think about. And we put them into practice because this is an initiation, meaning that we're taking what we've learned, we're actually applying it to our lives. And so if you participated in the last Sunday Mystery School and you accepted that invitation to practice creating reality in the Sunday Mystery School way, which is the way that Neville taught, again, it's our tradition. There's other ways to do it as well. In fact, there's a lot of opinions and ideas about techniques and how to do this and how to do that. Sunday Mystery School, we focus on one. Make it simple, right? We focus on one. It's in our tradition. And our tradition is in a lineage of Neville Goddard. So we focus on it the way that Neville Goddard taught us to create reality. And so if you have taken this homework and you've begun to apply it, you have been practicing doing exactly the steps, okay? And we're going to do a quick review of the steps, all right? So the steps are, first of all, to create a scene, okay? And the scene, as though you're the writer of a story or a screenplay, the scene takes place after an event happens in your reality, okay? And the scene is written in a way where it implies that in time and space, the event that you desire to experience has already happened, okay? So you're going to the end. And you write this scene as an author would write a screenplay, right? You write the scene in a way that implies that your wish is already fulfilled. Whatever you desire to have happen has already happened, already there, okay? And then you create this scene, and in the scene, it has to have tones of reality. And what we mean by that word, tones of reality, is we are adding sensory elements, meaning that there needs to be something that you're seeing, hearing, tasting, touching. It doesn't have to be all of those, but it has to be enough sensory elements to where you feel that it is real. Has to have tones of reality, okay? And then once you've written the scene, you need to make sure that it includes tones of reality, but other key aspect of this is something needs to happen in the scene. There needs to be something it needs to be an active scene. There needs to be action in the scene. It's not just standing in one place, looking at something, having a thought. We're really being specific in this. We want something to happen. I think the example I gave last week is, someone walks in and says something, or, something happens. So there's some sort of sensory element to it and some sort of action that takes place. So you write this scene. This is your creative power. Okay. You write this scene and then you enter the portal. Okay. And we talked about how the portal is a specific brainwave state. It's a portal that allows you access, in a manner of speaking, to the source code of reality, where you can go and you can create experiences, you can create realities from this level of a brainwave state. It's a portal, okay? Now that portal can be created a couple of different ways. One way that you can create the portal is very naturally in your sleep and wake cycle, okay, which we can visualize as a big circle. And on the top of the circle is your wake cycle, the bottom of the circle is your sleep cycle. At the horizons, that window between wake and sleep, when you're falling asleep, the hypnagogic state, that is natural access to the portal. And on the other side, as you're waking up, the hypnopompic state is the other natural access to this brainwave state portal, okay? We also gave it the more scientific designators of the alpha theta cusp, like right between wake and sleep, you're kind of dreamlike, your senses are kind of dimmed and dulled, you're very, very relaxed, but not quite asleep. You're still able to maintain some semblance of control over your attention. Okay, so you're kind of walking that fine edge, okay? And then in that portal state, okay, so it happens naturally throughout your day. Every human being experiences it. And then you can also, of course, create it intentionally by creating a nap time using brainwave tracks to help you access that. Or Neville didn't have brainwave tracks. He just said, I'm feeling so sleepy. I'm feeling very, very sleepy. And he could walk himself down, just by assuming the feeling. So he's very good at that. Okay, so we have a lot of ways to access the portal. Once we're there and we're in that very relaxed, sleepy state, then we start to rehearse ourselves in the scene as though we are the actor. We become the actor and we act out the scene in that sleepy state, and we make it as real as possible, meaning that we give it the sensory tones. And if you do it right, if you do it correctly, if you really give it sensory tones, this, whatever reality field you're leaving in this portal, fades. And you start to become aware that you are actually in this other reality field. You're actually become there traveling using your awareness. Okay. So when done correctly, it feels like movement has occurred. Now we're going to talk about this more in the later lessons of Neville Goddard's Mystery School. He has this whole lesson dedicated to this idea of thinking fourth dimensionally. So we're going to talk more about this. And if this still feels a little foreign to you, that's fine. That's why we do this. That's why we have this discussion every Sunday, why we set aside a block of time every week to come and have these discussions and talk about how to use our creative power, technique wise, and then also how to use it with wisdom. Okay. So we're going to talk about that more later, but just understand that there is a feeling of travel that occurs when you're doing it correctly. And then it goes from something that you wrote, which is thinking of, to something that you're experiencing, which is thinking from. Okay? Now, the Neville technique, when you go so that technically that's enough. When you go all the way into what Neville teaches, and you get into some of his more esoteric teachings, he also teaches breath work. Once you're there, once that travel has occurred, you begin to do some deep breathing. And then there's this feeling of some sort of climax. There's some sort of energy expression. There's something that goes out of you. And then also in his esoteric teachings, he's teaching that ideally you fall asleep while you're in that place. Okay, so travel has occurred, you fall asleep in that place, your awareness has moved, and now you've created that reality. It's become real for you. And then now the bridge of incidents, which is not our responsibility to arrange, that's, the Father in me does that work. Okay, that bridge of incidents now builds itself, and we move easefully and gracefully across it until we end up replaying that same scene. But this time it's in our waking state of consciousness and not just in the portal. Okay. So if that sounds like more than you were expecting, it's simply a matter of practice. Okay. It's simply a matter of practice. And this is something that if you consider this a life skill, this is actually more than a life skill. This is actually an afterlife skill, because this is our true nature. This is who we are when we're in bodies, and this is who we are when we're not currently wearing a human body. So this is actually an eternal skill. This is something that we learn to do. And there is a deeper dimension to learning to do it while we have a body. And of course, as we're about to get into with this Neville Goddard Masterclass, he teaches that all of these ancient scriptures were ways of encoding and preserving the wisdom about how to be intentional creators in this reality field of the earth plane, creating that as ideas, encoding them in stories, and then passing them down. Probably verbal traditions to begin with, and then eventually they were written down and they became scriptures. Okay, so it's like encoding this sacred wisdom so that it would last for thousands of years. Okay, so this is a revelation of our creative power, but it's not new. This is actually something that we've had literally for forever, because in truth, we are timeless beings. We are eternal beings having, temporary experiences in the bounds of time. Okay, so we're taking that skill set, the skill set from eternity, and we're learning to use it in a temporal way. Okay, and this is becoming conscious creators. Okay, so I have one more thought that I would like to share about this, and this is about this idea of overcomplicating, or is simple better? Okay, so Sunday Mystery School, I have an analogy that I've been playing with in my mind, because I think this is an important question. Like, is this technique overcomplicating what is otherwise a very simple thing? Like, can't you just change your mind and then your life changes? Well, yes, you can. But I have this analogy that I've been playing with in my mind. I want to share it with all of you to help you maybe relate to the idea in perhaps a little different way. Okay, so when I was younger, I did not have the same appreciation for food that I have now that I am older. Okay, so there was a time in my life where I simply ate to live. And flavor and texture and balance, and balancing like old ingredients with new ingredients and like creations. None of that was a foreign world to me. I was very much I just eat to live kind of guy. Okay, when I was young. Okay, there was a time in my life where that paradigm switched for me, and I was introduced to the foodie way of being. Meaning that I went from being someone who ate because eating was necessary to support life, live to eat. And over time, after being introduced to the foodie lifestyle, I became someone who, eats to live is the old way, lives to eat is the new way, right? So as a foodie, I love rich, detailed culinary experiences. I love creating amazing taste sensations. I love mixing familiar ingredients with the slightly exotic ingredients and coming up with new ways to experience food. I love the presentation of food. I love the texture of food. I love everything that happens in a culinary experience. Okay, so this is the idea of being a foodie or being a connoisseur of food. So as opposed to just doing it because I need to do it to live, now I'm actually really richly engaging in the pleasure and the joy of food. Okay? And I'm creating this as an analogy for the way that we engage with these ideas in Sunday Mystery School. So every human being, just simply by the very act of being aware and living, is manifesting realities that they experience, their self-concept. Okay, it's as natural to us as breathing. It's simply the state of being human. This is what we do. Okay, so that's the idea of eating to live. We're just manifesting to live. Okay. And then there's the connoisseurs who have some sort of introduction to the idea of what it means to actually be a conscious, fully embodied expresser of creativity through reality creation. And that's a different dimension of the same idea. Okay, there's a connoisseurship of it. Maybe I'm making up a new word there, right? So it's like, I know that I can do this very, very naturally, but it's part of my artistic expression to really revel in the joy and the pleasure that is associated with this idea of intentionally creating scenes, intentionally creating realities for myself to experience, working with dimensional planes, working with the very nature of consciousness itself, working with ancient teachings, ancient sacred wisdom that teaches me who I truly am, embodying that new identity, and then playing with my whole palette of creativity and giving life and expression to these, what I feel are very beautiful ideas in the reality field. Okay, so I see that as being a very different place to be than simply just manifesting, because that's just what happens and we don't even think about it and we don't, take any type of special joy or pleasure in it. Okay, so Sunday Mystery School, the intention is not to overcomplicate these ideas. The intention is to revel in the joy of the creative expression that is these ideas, to revel in the joy that is creatorhood, that is learning to work with these other planes of existence that we exist on, in addition to where we are in the here and now. And when we truly master the ability to express our creative power, we find that we're not floaty, up in the stratosphere type people. We actually become very embodied and very grounded in the here and now, because all we learn, yes, we can travel in time and create new realities for ourselves, but then because we understand our inheritance, we understand the nature of our power, we actually learn to gather all of our power right here, right now, and we become very visceral in our creative power. And we begin to rejoice in this idea of being human. We begin to rejoice in this idea of being able to experience in physicality with our bodies, with these, sensory vehicles, that really give us unparalleled feedback, right? Like that's why life can be so difficult, because we can really feel it. And it's also why life can be so fun, because we can really feel it, okay? And when we embrace that, okay, that's that ultimate state of creatorhood. That's that ultimate state of being sons of the Most High, of truly being the heirs and expressing from there. Okay, so that's what Sunday Mystery School is about. That's that state, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak that out and set that as a conscious intention that we can gather our energy around and say, yes, this is why we do this. It's not about, adding a bunch of steps to something that is otherwise very simple. No, this is an artistic expression. We're learning to be very skillful with this suite of tools that we ourselves in our greater capacity have gifted to ourselves as sons of the Most High. This is our, we can create with this power. This is our tool set. This is what we can, learn to use masterfully. And that is why we do this. That is what this gathering is about. That is what this school is about. That's what we're learning to do. Amazing. Okay, so grateful for the opportunity to introduce it in that way. We're going to continue today with Sunday Mystery School. We're going to, let's see, we've done a little bit of a review. We talked about last week's homework. I just want to see in the chat, did you do the homework? And if you did do the homework, did you experience a new reality this week? Just share in the chat. And I'll look at it here in a minute. I'm going to keep us going here, but share in the chat, and even just for each other, like share in the chat. Did you do the homework, and have you experienced a new reality as a result? Okay, so I definitely did the homework, and I definitely already manifested a new reality as a result of the homework. It's really, really awesome, and I'm excited about it, but I want to make sure that y'all are doing it too. So go ahead and share in the chat. Did you do the homework? Are you practicing? And have you experienced a new reality as the result of your practice? Now, if you haven't, that's fine. Again, this is about practice. That there's, we're developing a skill. And if this still feels foreign to you, that's fine too. And if this is already first nature to you, then that's awesome too. This is just a matter of sharpening and refining those skills in whatever way you can. Okay? Awesome. In the YouTube room, in the chat, there is a link to the text for today. And then also on Zoom, there is a link in the chat as well. For those of you that like to follow along, it is not necessary. But if you are one of those people that likes the text, someone was asking about the page numbers. At the very bottom of each page, there is a page number. So we're on page 4, the second half of page 4. We're going to start there in just a moment. It is not necessary. We're going to start there in just a moment. Okay, and I'm looking at your chats here. Right. Okay. So just a quick review of the homework. So the homework was to practice the reality creation technique in the way that Neville Goddard taught it. If you're a subscriber to my channel, in the community tab, I made a post that summarizes step by step exactly what to do. So I encourage you to review that. It's like a step by step way to practice the homework. So if you haven't had a chance to practice, definitely do that. And then also, I just want to encourage you all. Yes, you can create any reality that you desire to create. Okay, we are unlimited in that way. And also, we are only able to experience that which our subconscious allows us to experience. And what I mean by that is most of us have some sort of guardrails to keep things from feeling too crazy, right? So it's like this comes into the technique of like things unfold very gracefully and naturally, and rarely do they just happen all at once. And if they do happen all at once, it's because you have opened your subconscious in a way where you are resilient to handle very sudden and extensive change in your life in a very short amount of time. Okay, so this is where I'm gonna coach a little bit on using this power. Okay, with wisdom. Okay, so if you are going into the silence in this way, and you are creating a completely different reality as measured by the distance. Okay, so I'm living this life here, and this is, if it's a completely different life that you want to live, that's a lot of change that you will be experiencing. Okay, so again, kind of the coaching here is learning to navigate change gracefully. Okay, so if you are a person that doesn't like change, and then you're going in and planting change in the seeds of your subconscious, change will occur, and you may not enjoy the journey because maybe you haven't developed the resilience necessary for you to align and ride that bridge of incidents. If you are the sort of person that has developed resilience and has learned to embrace change, then you can plant the seeds of a new reality, and then understand that everything that happens that changes your life in some ways, you're actively embracing it. You're right. You're surfing that wave of change as opposed to getting knocked over by it. Okay. So this is where this idea of wisdom comes in. So if you are dramatically shifting something in your life, okay. So I'm gonna call back to a Neville story. So Neville says, if someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I really want to make more money in my life. I want more financial flow in my life, right? Will you help imagine this for me?" He says, Neville teaches that he's not surprised at all if 3 days later that person comes back to him and says, "Dude, I just asked for more money and instead I got laid off, or I got fired, or somehow like I lost my job," right? So it's like, well, that was the limit. That job was a limiting factor. That job was limiting your income because it was a fixed recipe of I invest this much energy and I get back this much finance. Okay. So if you're praying for rain, you better dig your ditches and prepare to receive the water. If you're praying for more money, then you have to be willing to ride the change. It might be a completely different lifestyle that you end up living, or it might not. Okay. But the idea is to understand that this is creative power, and that whatever we create for ourselves, we're going to experience. And so teaching ourselves to ride that wave or to walk that bridge with a boldness, and also being gentle, with our hearts, right? Because our hearts are our emotional centers. We can get attached to the way things are, and it's like learning to be resilient in the way where we can appreciate what is, so that when change occurs, we fully reveled in the juice of what was, so that when it changes and goes away, we don't feel like we're losing anything. We're like, oh yeah, I really enjoyed, right? It's like, okay, so I'm gonna use another analogy. So, someone creates an amazing drink for you, or an amazing, meal, going back to the foodie example. Okay, so it's like, if you really, really enjoy that dish that is placed in front of you, when it's gone, you don't mourn it, right? You're like, oh no, I lived that one to the fullest. So I actually like, I got everything that I needed to get out of that dish. So like, I am complete. Set it aside. Let's move on to what's next. Transposing that analogy to daily life, when you really embody your status as a creator, and you are values based, okay? And you become fully centered in the present moment, you're enjoying the richness of life, then you don't necessarily feel that when things change, that there's something that you're losing. Rather, you feel like, oh, that was amazing. I really enjoyed every moment of that. I am complete with it. And I'm ready to move into this next reality that I've created for myself to experience. Understanding that this is endless. When that one's done, then you'll set it aside and move on to the next one. And when that one's done, you'll set it aside and move on to the next one. This is a never-ending story that we're living. And so in this idea that I'm painting for you, there is a sense of balance and resilience to change. And then also this, really being rooted in gratitude and appreciation. Someone that I coached, I have a couple of clients that I coach in reality creation, and someone that I coached was talking about desiring to move. Okay, they I've lived in this house for a while. I'm ready for a new place to live. Okay, and so we talked about how to create that new place to live using these techniques. Okay, and then we talked about how really leaving one place, when you're ready, when you feel like you're done with something, the proper way to leave it is by expressing gratitude and appreciation for it, right? It's like it brings your experience of something to this beautiful conclusion, right? And I talked about how I had manifested new places to live by becoming profoundly present to a feeling of gratitude and appreciation for the way that the old place had served my needs. Okay, so it wasn't like, oh, I'm here and suddenly this doesn't feel like it's enough anymore. Now I want something new because this isn't good enough. No, it's like, this has been amazing. I am so grateful that I was able to live here for the time that I lived here. And I'm grateful and I'm appreciative for everything, that all the ways that this served who I've been, living in this place. And now I'm ready to set it aside and let it go in gratitude and appreciation and say, thank you for housing me, for being my shelter for these years. And with gratitude and appreciation, I release you and I'm ready to move into this next new state. Okay, I'm ready to embrace this new shelter that will become my home. Okay, I have transmuted problems in my life using this idea. I had a car once that was old in mileage and is a very high-end car and is very expensive to maintain. And I did not want to invest any more money into it. And so I decided to release the car, okay? And I was like, how am I gonna let this car go? Because I didn't know how to get rid of it. It was, it had a loan on it, it was upside down, like all the World of Caesar things. I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go. I just know that I'm ready for it to go and I'm ready for a new vehicle and a new experience. And where did I land? I landed on this profound sense of grace, gratitude, and appreciation for that car and all of the ways that it served me. And I remember vividly walking out to the parking lot where it was parked after I made the decision to let it go. And I placed my hand on the hood and I just had a heart-to-heart with that car. And I said, thank you. We have had so many miles together. I had traveled the whole nation in that car, literally coast to coast. I had driven that car coast to coast. We have had so many miles together. You have served me so well. You have been such an amazing, traveling companion. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for your service. We are now complete and I give you permission to go. Okay? Within a week, that car was gone. Through a bridge of incidences and circumstances, and the loan was paid off and everything was perfect and it is just on its way. Okay, so this is the state. This is the mystery school state. When we are embodying this wisdom, this is who we are as creators. We really appreciate what is. We find all of the reasons why what is perfect. And then we're grateful and we're appreciative of that. And when it's time to create something new, then we let it go in that way. We say, thank you for your service. Thank you. Even This idea of taking back our power from what no longer serves, right? Thank you for holding my power while I needed you to hold my power. Thank you for, being a trustworthy store of my power while I was still learning how to hold my own power. And now that I don't need you anymore, thank you for your service. Thank you. We are complete. I release you. You may go. Okay? So that's a component of this too. When you're going into these states and you're creating new realities for yourself to experience, if there's a lot of change involved, a component of creation is coming back to this normal natural reality and being in that state of resilience, right? Where you can say, all right, I know what comes next, and I'm so grateful for what is, because I know that now I'm releasing it and a new paradigm is coming into place. And there's a beauty to that. This is for the connoisseurs. This is for those that really love the richness of being embodied as a human on planet Earth. This is for those of us that are really inspired by the idea of self-actualization, about really being who we can be as creators. And understanding that it is a skill. We're going to invest time and effort to learn how to do this properly. Okay? It is a skill, but we're excited about the skill. We're excited to wake up or fall asleep, as it were, and practice. Okay? We're excited about those portals at the morning and the evening. We look forward to them. At the end of the day, revise. The beginning of the day, set the new reality in motion. Okay? And we're excited about change. When things fall away. To us, there is no death. There is only a release and a renewal. Okay? Because we understand that whatever is must be consumed by the tooth. Remember the tooth in the name of Jesus, the shin, the flame that burns down, creates that space so that something new can be built in its place. Okay, and again, this is a skill set from eternity. So from the perspective of eternity, there is no death, only changing of forms. Okay, so in our life, we understand that whatever is, it doesn't die, it simply changes forms or leaves our sight, okay, so that we can create new cubic realities for ourselves to experience. Okay, so I hope wherever you are finding resonance with this. Just checking my settings here. Okay, great. You're finding resonance with these ideas and it is speaking to your heart. Okay, so we're going to continue with the text here. There is a story that I want to get to, but first we're going to take a moment to speak a blessing over this gathering. And this blessing is, it really is our guiding intention. Everything that we do here, we do under the leadership of this intention, this sacred blessing that I'm going to speak over this space. So this is a blessing for everyone who is gathered in this space, whether you're watching live or the recording on YouTube, for every channel member, and for all of humanity, for every embodied being on this planet. This is our sacred blessing for everyone. I turn now to go within, drawing my senses inward into the center of my own being. I offer gratitude and appreciation in this moment for the perfection that is this present moment. In gratitude, we accept that we are, and we declare that we are wise souls, growing healthy, youthful minds. Thank you that we are feeling now the presence of life force energy, awakening, enlivening, and making whole our bodies in this physical dimension. Thank you that our relationships are now healed with love, compassion, and understanding. Thank you that we have humbly accepted our power and our responsibility to imagine wisely as sovereign co-creators of the world that we share. Thank you that we are inspired by life-expanding, consciousness-uplifting possibilities manifesting now. We honor the ancestors, each and every ancestor who has walked this path ahead of us. Thank you for the wisdom passed down from the ancients, written into the fabric of reality all around us, in the spirit of liberating our hearts and our minds. Thank you that together we welcome the inheritance of our bright and beautiful future. And so it is. Okay. We're going to continue with the text. There is a story that we're going to get into from Neville. We've had the first part of Sunday Mystery School here with a little bit of coaching about the homework and a little bit of coaching about the state. And now we're going to move into a story from the book of Genesis. Okay, so this is, I'm going to the text now. This is the bottom of page 4. We're going to continue with Neville's words. If you remember, he was talking about creating with consciousness. And in the last Sunday Mystery School, if you missed it, go back and watch it. It's very revelatory. Okay, so I'm just quick review. So it's this idea of when you create a reality successfully in this portal state, you have no desire to continue trying to create it because it already is so. You've already been there because you've traveled in this through the portal in this dimensionally greater state of being, state of awareness. Your awareness has traveled and you've experienced it. Okay, and so when you accomplish this, there's a feeling of satisfaction. There's a feeling of an energetic discharge, like something has gone out of you. Okay, and it's your creative power has been released in this place. And so at that point, you don't really feel the desire to continue trying to create it because you understand it's already created. Okay. And then we talked about this idea of all you do then is remain faithful to it. You know, when you are expecting a child, okay, you don't have to use your conscious mind to grow that child. You understand the child's growing and you begin to prepare for its arrival. Okay. So this is remaining loyal to the child, remaining loyal to what is in gestation, remaining loyal to that reality that you saw for yourself because you were there. In the portal, you traveled, you experienced it, and now you're remaining loyal to it, understanding that now you're walking a bridge of incidence to experience in this dimension what you already experienced in a dimensionally greater place. Okay? So we're continuing with Neville's words. Neville says, our next story is in the 38th chapter of the book of Genesis. Here is a king whose name is Judah. The first 3 letters of this name also begin with Yod, He, Vav. Tamar is his daughter-in-law. The word Tamar means a palm tree, or the most beautiful, the most comely. She is gracious and beautiful to look on and is called a palm tree. So we're getting into some of the metaphysical significance of the name. Okay, so every character in the Bible is a state of being, and what that state is revealed in the way that the character is described. It's what their name is and what the name means. Name means nature. Okay, it's what they're wearing. It's what they say. It's what they do in these stories. That's revealing the state. And by studying the states, you begin to open your awareness to dimensionally larger states of awareness. There's a language here that we're learning to interpret, and it teaches us to think in this other, it's like another way of thinking. It's not linear, it becomes a dimensionally larger way of thinking, okay? So Tamar, in that name, there is an encoding of what this is, something beautiful to look on. Okay, we're not talking about a woman per se, we're talking about an idea. There's something here that represents an oasis. A tall, stately palm tree blossoms even in the desert. Okay, so even when there's no water around, a tall, stately palm tree still blossoms. Wherever there are palm trees, there is oasis. Okay, so even in the desert, if you see palm trees, that's a sign that water is nearby. When you see the palm tree in the desert, there will be found what you seek most in that parched land. So in the land of the desert, you're seeking water, okay? So the Tamar would be a sign, palm tree would be a sign of that water. There's nothing more desirable to a man moving across a desert than the sight of a palm tree. In our case, to be practical, our objective is the palm tree. Our objective, meaning the reality that we're creating for ourselves to experience as these connoisseurs of our creative power. We create this objective, and chances are it's beautiful. Chances are it resembles some sort of relief, similar to when you're really thirsty and you get that drink of cool water. Okay, so chances are our objective feels that way, like a drink of cool water on a hot day. Okay? Our objective is the palm tree. That is the stately, beautiful one that we seek. Whatever it is that you and I want, whatever it is that we truly desire, that objective, that reality is personified in this story as Tamar the beautiful. We are told that she, Tamar, dresses herself in the veils of a harlot and sits in the public place. Her father-in-law, King Judah, comes by, and he is so in love with this one who is veiled that he offers her a child to be intimate with her. Tamar says, "What will you give me as a pledge that you will give me a child?" So King Judah, he's looking around and he's like, well, what do you want? What do you want as a pledge? And Tamar says, give me your ring, give me your bracelets, and give me your staff. When she asks this of him, he takes from his hand the ring. He takes from his arm the bracelets, and he gives them to her along with his staff. I mean, he's a king, so he has a scepter, okay? So he gives those to her. And then he went in unto her and knew her, and she bore him a son. Okay, so that's the story. Now here's the interpretation. Man has one gift that is truly ours to give. We have one gift that is truly ours to give, and that is ourself. We have no other gift, as told us in the very first creative act of Adam, begetting the woman out of himself. There was no other substance in the world but himself, with which he could fashion the object of his desire. Okay, so whatever we're creating in the world, we must create out of ourselves. In like manner, Judah, the king, had but one gift that was truly his to give, himself. Symbolized, this gift that he's giving himself is symbolized as the ring, the bracelets, and the staff. Because the ring of the king, the bracelets of the king, and the scepter of the king are the symbols of kingship. So this is how you know someone is a king, particularly in the scene that is being portrayed, this biblical scene that is being portrayed in this story, okay, this allegory. In that scene, you know someone is either a commoner or a king based on how they are dressed and how they carry themselves. So in this case, the ring, the bracelets, the staff are symbolic of the state of being the king. Man offers that which is not himself, but life demands that he gives the one thing that symbolizes himself. Life demands that we give our ring, our bracelet, our scepter. These make the king, and when the king gives these things, the king gives himself. Neville says, "You are the great King Judah. Before you can know your Tamar, your beautiful objective, your beautiful state that you desire to materialize in reality, and make her bear your likeness in this world." Okay, so you got this beautiful idea, you become one with it, and out of that comes the likeness of it. Symbolized here as a child, but in this case, it's the reality that you're creating. You must go in unto her and give of self. Okay, so Neville gives the example. He says, suppose I want security. I cannot get security by simply knowing other people that are secure. I cannot force security to come by pulling strings. I must become conscious of being secure. I cannot be insecure and then go out in the world and do things out there to force myself to become secure while I'm remaining in a state of insecurity. Okay? I must become secure in and of myself because I can only fashion my world out of my self-concept. It's the only thing that I have. You know, one of the later lessons in this series is titled "No One to Change But Self." Okay, that idea is woven right here. I'm the only one that can give myself what I desire, and I give it to myself by becoming one with it. I give myself the beautiful state by becoming one and intimate with that beautiful state. And that's what's being symbolized in this story. And of course, they add the extra props of the the rings rather, the bracelets and the staff, which are symbols of kingship. Okay, so who is the king? The one who knows. We are kings, we are queens, we are rulers of our self-governed nations when we understand that we are the source of the power that we seek. That's that state of kingship, when we choose to manage our power with wisdom. It's being the wise rulers of our self-governed nations. Okay, so when we understand that that's what that is, we are now the kings, and so that's the state is symbolized. Okay, with the rings, the bracelet, and the staff. Okay, so we must become conscious of being that which we desire to be and give it our rulership. Become one with it and intimate with it. Neville gives more examples. He says, let's say that I want to be healthy. Pills will not make me healthy. My diet or the climate that I'm in will not make me healthy. I must become conscious of being healthy by assuming the feeling of being healthy. No one to change but self. If I desire health, I must be health. I must become that, become one with health. And that is how I express health. I can't force it to happen out there. I must become it. Perhaps I want to be lifted up in this world. Merely looking around at kings and presidents and noble people and living in their reflection will not make me dignified or noble. I must become conscious of being within my own self, uniting my kingship, my rulership with it. I must become conscious of being noble and dignified and walk as though I were now that which I want to be. When I walk in that light, I give of myself. I give of myself. I give of myself. I give my rulership, my kingship to the image, to the Tamar, to the idea, to the objective that was haunting my mind. And in time, my union with that idea bears me a child, which means I objectify a world, a reality field that is in harmony with that which I am conscious of being. Conscious of being, not thinking of, thinking from, because I am that. Okay? I'm reminded in this moment of a story that Neville tells about manifesting an honorable discharge from the United States Army during World War II. I'm going to assume in this moment that all of you are familiar with this story, so I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward to the one sentence that I'm very present to in this moment. That which I have done, do nothing. That which I have done, do nothing. Now, if you remember in this story, Neville, using this technique that we teach here at Sunday Mystery School, moved in a dimensionally greater space, his awareness, from where he was at military training to his home in New York City, where he desired to be. And he placed himself in that environment and he walked around the room, gave it the tones of reality, touched his favorite objects, looked out the window down at Washington Square. He was there. He moved. He traveled there. Okay? He made it real by placing his awareness there. That is this story embodied. Okay? So he's in military training, U.S. Army, about to go to war. His Tamar is being back at home with his wife and daughter. He makes that state real by going in and knowing Tamar. How do you know? You go and you experience for yourself. There's all the difference in the world between thinking of something and thinking from something. When you think of something, you're like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I XYZ? When you think from something, you know that you already are XYZ. And how do you know? Because you have experienced it. And how do you experience it? You go through the portal into that reality and you make that reality, which was previously just a flat possibility, you make it cubic. Okay? You make it cubic. And how do you make it cubic? By giving it that sensory vividness and playing out a scene, something happening. Okay? That's how you know. And after you have been there, after you have traveled there in your awareness, there is no more, I wonder if that will happen. I wonder if I did it properly. No, you know because you were there. Okay? Just like, if you were at work yesterday, if you were at work yesterday, okay, and you were in the office and something happened and you were there and you witnessed it for yourself, nobody else can tell you that it didn't happen because you were there and you saw it for yourself. No one can take away from you what you have seen for yourself. It's not speculation for you. It's not theory for you. You were there. That is what's happening in these portal states. It's removing this vague idea of like, oh, I wonder if I could manifest this new possibility for myself. It's taking it out of the realm of theory and speculation. And it's now, oh, I've seen that. I have traveled there in my awareness and I know that that is real. I have given it cubic reality. I have known that. I've been intimate with that place. Okay? That is what a king does, a queen does, a ruler of a self-governed nation does. Creates their reality in that manner. When I walk in that light, Neville says, I give of myself your awareness by transporting, by moving, by traveling to this place where this is real. You give it to yourself, the image that was haunting your mind. That's when you were thinking from, it was haunting your mind. Once you've given it to yourself, now it's real for you. And in time, this place that I've been, remembering, All these stories are using the most basic things in the world. In this case, the allegory is procreation, one of the most basic ideas on the earth plane. Okay, so it's using that as an allegory. I go in and I know this idea intimately, as though I was procreating, in the physical dimension, a child, but in this case, I'm procreating and creating a reality. Okay, and in time, that act bears me a child, which in the allegory is a child, but we understand that it means we are objectifying a world that is in harmony with this expanded sense of self-concept that has been where we desire to be. I've already been there. I've already seen it. I already know I am that. Neville says, you are King Judah, and you are also Tamar. When you become conscious of being that which you want to be, you are Tamar. You are that beautiful state. You are the oasis. Then you crystallize your desire into the world round about you. Moving on to the top of page 6. No matter what stories you read in the Bible, no matter how many characters these ancient storytellers introduce into the drama, there is one thing you and I must always bear in mind, Neville says. They all take place within the mind of the individual man, within our minds. All of these characters live in the mind of each of us as individuals. As you read the story, make it fit the pattern of self. Know that your consciousness is the only reality. Then know what you want to be. Then assume the feeling of being that which you want to be and remain faithful to your assumption, living and acting on your conviction. Your conviction. Again, conviction doesn't come from thinking of. Conviction comes from thinking from. Always make it fit that pattern. Always make it fit that pattern. Okay. Awesome. All right. So we're gonna talk a little bit about this to kind of wrap it up and bring it in for a beautiful landing here. Okay. Once again, we are using stories to open up another form of language. Language being a method and a technique of relating to these ideas. Okay? So that's also what this school is all about. It's learning to speak the language of this reality creation. There's an understanding here. Yes, there's techniques and there's even a science behind it, but it's learning to speak the language of being, and these stories help build that bridge, the bridge of language. Okay? So Sunday Mystery School is a long-term thing. We're gonna be doing this for a long time. And we're starting with Neville's original masterclass to lay a foundation. And then as we go, we will be able to call back to concepts like Tamar and Judah. Okay? Now it becomes like a meme in our awareness because we've all been exposed to this story and we all understand now what that means. Right? So 6 months from now, I can be like, oh yeah, this is another Tamar and Judah scenario. Okay, and then you'll be like, oh yeah, I get what that means because now I've learned to speak this language. Okay, now we're using what the ancients, these stories that the ancients told because it gives us this frame. It's like we don't have to reinvent the wheel. These stories are already written in a way where they embody this wisdom beautifully. Okay, so very, very good. All right, so I'm going to take a look at the Zoom room here, and I'm going to invite our Zoom members. If there's any contributions that you all would like to make, I'm going to give you an opportunity to do that. And then our live presentation will come to a close. And those of you that are in the channel mastermind are invited to stay with me in the Zoom room. We're going to move into our mastermind group imagination call immediately after Sunday Mystery School. If you're not a member of the mastermind group and you would like to be, you can click the join button next to my YouTube channel name and take a look at the options there. The mastermind allows you to come in and do the group imagination activities like we're going to do after this call, and it also allows you to be in the Zoom room during Sunday Mystery School so you can have a little more interactive experience. Okay, so to the Zoom room. Let me find the chat here. All right, welcome everybody. Text PDF, yep, good. Okay, any comments or contributions from the Zoom room? And we have Danny. Go ahead, Danny. I think I know what's up. Hold on one second. Okay, fixed. Thank you, Danny. Go ahead.
There we go. Cool. Thank you so much. I just want to say just a comment. Happy Sunday, everyone. It's good to be here. Yeah, this is great. This is allowing all of us the opportunity to learn and grow and just to share with each other. So thanks for being here, everyone. And I'm glad to be here too. That's really it. I'm complete.
Thank you so much, Danny. Appreciate that. Wonderful. Do we have...
Hello.
Hello. Hey,
Hey.
we got Michael.
Oh,
What's
I
up?
yeah, I just wanted at this point to talk a little bit about the actual you know, the what do you say? I guess the logistics or like when you're actually doing this practice,
Yeah,
right? That
let's do
we're
it.
going over and using.
Yeah.
And it was great that this came up because that's something that actually visualizing a complete scene or I would always have would it be an issue where I would always like not let myself like fully define a scene, if that makes sense before, because even though I knew how to do it. But anyway, so adding the extra element, with the breath work was a different thing because that's not usually what you're taught, right? Because that's even a little different from even the idea when you're talking about even Neville, because I had heard Neville talk about that before, but also even the story of when he got out of the military, he describes basically the thing of like, I repeat the scene over and over until I fall asleep. Right. But that seems a little different. And I get that you could do that with doing the breath work and everything, but it's such I mean, that wakes you up. I mean, obviously I've tried it. So,
Yeah.
But also it's a little bit different because there's almost this idea of, yes, you do it until it's complete, but when he talks about it, with doing the sleeping thing, it's almost the way he's teaching, even when he talks about himself, he's like, I did this for so many nights. I did it for 3 nights, or I did it for a week, or I did it for a month. Like Neville said, variations of all those things. Like I fall asleep with the same scene. Whereas this is like, you're trying to build up, to like, it's done. Whatever that session was, it was done. And so that'd be one question. Like, have you ever tried that and then felt that you needed to go back to that scene? Or is it just you do that once and it's done? But then I also just wanted to say because this isn't obviously talked about that much, talk about the actual experience. So I'm still at the ending stages of this chauffeur job, which takes up all my time. So I was dealing with that. I did only have like 3 more work days left because I decided I had to leave that situation. So last week I was still like literally working 15 hours a day and tried to, integrate all this stuff at the same time. So I finally wrote a scene. This was just a couple of days ago, or like 3 or 4 days ago. And the first night I didn't get to the act. What I did is I just rehearsed it, but I didn't have the breath work because I had practiced the breath work separately. So that's the other thing. It's kind of, there's a trick to combining those things. Because what I found was was when I first started, it was like, okay, so I knew that the breathing was going to be distracting as far as like, closing the door to the senses, and then you immerse yourself in the scene. And then when you know what I mean, then it brings you back to like, oh, I'm aware of my body and what I'm doing. And it's a separate focus, right? And so it takes you out of the scene a little bit. And I was afraid that would happen. But what actually happened was, because I was thinking about that, I spent the first evening, I just rehearsed looping the scene over and over. And I did I did brain waves and stuff. And then I got in a good state. And then I just rehearsed the scene over and over again. And so that, I could do it backwards and forwards. So it was just a short little thing. And then the second night, I added the breath work. And what happened was I did it a few times, and then I started doing the breath work. And what I found was it was distracting, but just for a second.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then I got into the rhythm. And then what I found was it was interesting. I guess it was because I'd rehearsed the scene. Because at first I was like, I'm trying to be immersed in it, and you have to kind of, your mind plays tricks on you a little bit too, because you go in there's this balance, because it wants to both, while you're trying to be in it, it also wants to narrate to you about how good you're doing at doing it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking there's little things like that.
Yeah.
And then, but what happened was, when I actually got into the rhythm of the breath, I realized I'm focusing on my breath, but the scene just started playing automatically.
Oh,
I would
yeah.
just find my awareness just automatically going through this like track of the scene.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, okay, so I'll just be present with that.
Yes.
And when I was able to do that and just almost follow along what was happening, because
Yes.
I had already said, it was like, it's almost like music. It was
Yes.
like you're just, and then, and when, so anyway, so I was able to get this group, but even looking back, and I was this weird kind of balance that I didn't know how to find, but I did, like when you're learning to ride a bike or something, and it just, and then I did that. And what happened was, it was just I wanted to sort of, I guess, test it at first, and it was just like a thing that I wanted, right? Just like an object. And it was somebody saying, oh, how do you like that thing? I was like, yeah, I love it. But it was with the scene was like, it was a toast with wine. So you can hear the clink and and taste the wine per second. So all that was in it. And it was great. And what I noticed, as far as, I did also have just a general, I guess, consciousness shift, because I guess just going through that practice, then you get rooted a little bit more in, this is through the whole, which we'll talk more about the mastermind and stuff, and everything, but just being more present, identifying more as I am awareness, which it kind of deepens that in itself. But what I noticed with the thing was that after that, I didn't have the thought of, because it was something that I've been wanting or thinking that I need, that I'm like, how am I going to get that?
Yes.
And I realized that immediately that went away.
Yes.
And every time I would think of it, it was like, oh, I have that.
Yes.
But it was interesting, because it was this in the sense of like, oh, I have that, even though I don't see it. And I still don't see it yet, but it's almost like, do I have socks? Yes, they're in my drawer. I don't see them at the moment, but they're there. Exactly. And so I have that. I definitely noticed that as where that, and an immediate difference in the way I was automatically and therefore subconsciously relating to that. Yes. So anyway, I know that was a lot, but I wanted to kind of go through a little bit of like, what does this actually look like in practice? So anyway, Go ahead.
Yeah. I appreciate the distinction and the opportunity to clarify a couple things here. So again, I want to emphasize, this is a skill. This is something that we're practicing. And with this idea of practicing the skill, there can be times where we are practicing different elements of the skill at different times, just in exactly the way that you were describing. So it's like, okay, let me rehearse the scene a bunch of times and practice walking through the scene in the portal state, and then let me add the breath work as a later component. That's totally acceptable. And I also want to be really clear, like, I want you to practice doing this, the scene. I want you to practice the breath work, but we're not dogmatic about it. And what I mean by that is, yes, have the experience. And if there's an element of this that doesn't work for you, like if the breathing just is not working for you, like, I want you to try it. But once you've tried it, if you determine that it's not working for you, then cool, like, use what works for you, right? But definitely at least give it a try. Again, because we don't want to speculate about these things. We want to actively practice with these things. And that's the most important aspect. To speak a little bit about some of the things that you brought up. So this is a question that I had from Orlana before the class went to. When to start the breathing. So in my mind's eye, when I'm doing this, I make sure that I feel like I have moved my awareness and I'm there. Once I feel like I've actually moved there, then is when I entertain this idea of breathing. It's like I'm already there, I'm already feeling it, and then I'm charging my state in that place. And so that's like, okay, I'm already here. Now it's simply a matter of exploding the energy while I'm there, in a manner of speaking. Okay, so it's if travel, then planting that energy while you're already there. Make sense? Okay, yeah. So, and then I see we have Orlana. Go ahead, Orlana.
Yeah, so another question, could this actually be acted out like in person? Like, so if I had a scene that I wanted to do with my sister and it's not like imaginary in the mind, but you're just acting it out like in person, could that be something that you can do?
There's all kinds of ways to do this. So I would say experiment, especially if you feel inspired to experiment that way. Yeah, experiment it. Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. So my partner and I, a couple years ago, we decided we wanted a cat. Didn't have any animals. We wanted a cat. But we didn't just want a cat. We wanted the cat, right? So we created in our mind's eye this gorgeous cat. Like I wanted this cat to be like one of those cats you can just stare at all day and just, this is a beautiful cat, right? So like that's my Tamar, this beautiful cat, right? So we were sitting on the couch talking about this beautiful cat and starting to create it with our language. And then we just kind of spontaneously and playfully began to sing about it together. Just like calling the cat to us, like singing playfully, and bridge of incidents, and like boom, here comes this amazing cat. And we look at each other all the time and be like, we sang this cat into existence. That's the only way to explain how perfect this cat is. Okay. So it's like, play. And so play, this is your palette, this is your artistry, like play, and also try it the way that the tradition teaches, because it's both. Yeah.
Right. So trying different ways to, create your reality.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for bringing that up. Singing things into existence is that resonates with me. But I actually wanted to bring up something when you were describing, right, getting into technicalities again, when you're describing, okay, I'm there, and then I start the breath work. Okay, so in that moment, are you continuing to loop the scene, or are you just like, I'm now here? What is actually going on in your head? Are you still visualizing at that moment? Because that was the balance for me, is like, can I keep the visualization thing running and do the rhythm at the same time? And then and then it's a sequence too, because you're like building it up, you know what I mean? So you have to have all these things going on.
Great opportunities for distinctions here. So the way I'm going to say it is, I've come to understand this is a VR that is built into our own consciousness, our own awareness. So if you've ever strapped on one of those Oculus headsets or like, anything like that, and you feel transported to this other place, there's a similar thing that's happening. And you have to awaken your imagination to the point where you can literally feel transported. And that's, again, what we're talking about doing. But once you've done that, once you've awakened your imagination, you feel like you've actually traveled to this other place. There's a very joyful feeling associated with that. At least for me, like I get there and I'm very joyful, and I feel like I'm like throbbing with life force energy. I'm like very like alive in that place. And so then I'm in the scene, the scene's happening. And yes, once I feel like I've traveled and I'm there, then the breathing just happens pretty naturally. And does it pull me out sometimes? Yeah, but then I just get right back into it. Right? Just like yoga, you're trying a posture and you fall out, you just get right back into it and try it again. And the idea is you keep talking about riding that balance, like riding a bike, like finding the, between. That's part of the skill set. That's literally what we're practicing, sharpening our edge. And again, this is like becoming a great artist. We're mastering a craft. It's like anything, sculpture, paint, in any type of modality of artistic creation. There's a mastery to this, and that requires practice. It's a skill set. So just consider it that way, and take joy in the fun of like being in this other place and then learning how to breathe here while you're there. Like it can be quite engaging.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very helpful. It's interesting too, because like when I approached the exercise, it felt different. As in before I did it, I had this feeling of like, oh, I'm about to actually do something. So I wonder if like I could feel like the charge coming
Yes.
off of it before I participated in it. Does that make sense?
I love that you called that out. So I noticed, like this week, I said I've already had miracles happen this week. So this week doing it, and then also it helped me knowing that all of you are doing it too. There's something psychological about like, oh, we're all doing this homework together. So I was even more into it when I was doing it, and I came out of it and I was like, I'm different. I'm literally a different person. Like even though I'm back in the room, where I was, that I traveled from into this new place, even though I'm back, there's a different me here now. And so that's how I knew. I was like, that scene's actually done. Like I've actually moved. I was there. I saw it. I know it. I'm thinking from it. And then I came back and now I'm different. I'm a different person for having traveled in that way. So that's that feeling that we're looking for. Like that's that feeling that we're creating when we do this properly. Oh, I actually had that experience and I'm actually different for it. Brilliant. I love the contributions from the Zoom room. I'm going to have you all hang out here. We're going to go ahead and thank everyone on YouTube for joining us, and let that live stream go. And we're going to come back and continue with the mastermind. So just hang out, everybody in the Zoom room. I'll be right back with you. For those of you on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us live for this Sunday Mystery School class. I trust you have found it inspiring in some way. Maybe it's given you an additional encouragement to practice reality creation, working on building reality fields with this method of scene creation as taught by Neville Goddard. And I hope that the little bit of coaching that we did earlier in terms of how to be a wise creator who can navigate change with resilience and hold this state of gratitude and appreciation and be fully here, not living in the future, but like fully here and then traveling to the future to create what comes next and then coming back and being fully here. And then also this idea of being the connoisseur, like really like just enjoying the richness, the pleasure that is our creative power in motion, directed consciously and with intention in the way that this practice teaches us to do. So that's the seeds that we've planted in our gardens today, and we will continue this conversation next week. We'll get into more of the stories, more of the text from Neville, and on Tuesday 8 p.m. Eastern is when we do it. We're gonna have another Neville and Chill. Shweta is going to be back on with me, and we're going to expand that conversation that we had a couple weeks ago even further. So all of you are invited to join me for that. And that is all that we're doing for right now. So again, thank you, everyone. And as always, my friends, imagine wisely, and I will see you all next week.